welcome everyone to Nano's Indie Cafe, the show where we discuss and promote various indie games and indie projects. We're all about helping the indie community grow. If you have your own indie game or indie project, make sure you stop by sometime, talk and discuss about your game, promote, plug the link. We want to help indie games succeed, whether it be a video game, comics, a board game, or maybe an indie food truck. I'm still waiting for that opportunity. Indie food truck, call me.
That would be exciting.
Yeah. So today, we do this at twitch.tv/nanohero, Wednesday through Friday, typically at 2 p.m. MST Arizona time. And today I have my first board game guest of the podcast. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me today, man. I'm really excited.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Zack Kuntz, and I am one of the co-founders of Korrosivegames, a small publishing and design company. We do both in Arizona. We're actually launching our first game, Faste of Venterra. It's a war strategy game, kind of modeled after video games and board games alike. So it kind of puts the best of both worlds together. And we're going to be launching it this Saturday, the 29th. At a disclosed time to our email list people. So sign up for that and get to know when it first goes live.
Well, you mean past Saturday?
Sorry?
For people who listen audio on YouTube, Saturday.
Okay. For you people listening later, it was Saturday the 29th.
Yeah, what were you people? Why didn't you show up?
Yeah, come on. What? You missed the party.
Yeah, the audio version goes up Wednesday, and then the YouTube version goes up a week later. So.
Oh, okay, nice.
Got a little system. So, when did you first get into board games? Because I know I've only really gotten into them recently, but did you grow up playing a lot of board games?
So, I mean, I grew up like any other kid, playing Monopoly and Risk and
really?
Uno,
Monopoly
just the normal
does not,
stuff, right?
Monopoly does not count.
But how does Monopoly not count? Every family has played Monopoly. That is, whenever I talk to people and I say, hey, do you like board games? They're like, Monopoly?
Yeah, but that's what bothers me. When people think board games, they think Monopoly and they don't take them seriously.
You know what though? I think with the with Catan, when it got really popular, people started actually associating games more with that type of game too. While it does include, the same amount of luck concepts, the same amount of social concepts.
Do you like Catan?
I do enjoy Catan, not so much
Tyson
anymore.
Doesn't.
Really, I think after I started getting into more deeper, strategically value board games, I think Catan kind of was like, oh, I went back to it recently, and I was like, man, this is so random.
His complaints is that's very dated.
I guess. I don't know. I think that what makes it really better is the Cities and Knights expansion. That really, I think I can play that one for sure.
I've never played Catan.
Oh, you've never played it?
I've only been playing board games for maybe a year or two. So,
Well,
and I live far. So if I want to play games with friends,
Well, I'll have to bring it sometime.
Okay, cool.
We'll have to play it. And you can tell me what you think about it.
Yeah, but so whenever I take a lift, the lift driver asks what I'm doing, and I'll typically say I'm playing board games, and they'll be like, "Oh, like Monopoly," and then I kind of have to explain it. It's a bit more than Monopoly.
They just say like Monopoly, and you're like, sure, whatever. I don't know. I'm going to a Monopoly party. What can I say? A bunch of us can get together play Monopoly.
Can I make a confession?
Yeah.
I've never played a full game of Monopoly.
You've never played a full game of Monopoly?
I'm not even sure if I play a partial game.
Really?
I've seen the board. I don't even know how to play Monopoly.
Man,
I've seen people play it, but
you jumped straight into the deep end then in board games, didn't you?
wait, I play Scrabble.
I think I saw you buy like Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. That game is so complicated,
and I still haven't played
many
it.
Pieces. I mean,
but then the next,
I played it.
Then the next,
and it took us like 4 hours to finish.
The next little like adventure and board game day, I'm gonna ask like Steven if he wants to like play it because I think he knows how to play it. So
okay, yeah.
And those like board game days, they go long. It goes from like noon to 2 a.m. It's like my favorite like board game night event. So
I mean, full day event at that point, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's the time I can like really like play board games. But do you find you have that problem finding people to play board games? Like board games isn't as an accessible as a hobby as say like video games, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the more I've gotten into the board game community, definitely the more conventions I've gone to, the more groups I'm a part of, the easier it is to find people. Because the board gaming groups are so supportive of each other. Like somebody's like, hey, we're going to do a game night. And everybody's immediate is like, oh, okay, let's do it. Or I don't know if I can make it. And, if people are going to come, they generally come. And I think that when you go to a convention too, there's a lot of what happened. I was playing this. I met these random people because I just walked up and I was like, this looks like a cool game. You guys got an open seat? So I played with them. And then afterwards they were like, hey, we'd like to invite you to like our game night that we do. Actually game day on Saturday that they do like the first of every month. And they were like, yeah, you should come check it out. What's your email? We'll go ahead and email you updates. And
where was it?
It was at AZ Game Fair that I met them.
No, the game day they invited you to.
Oh, it's at some college campus. I haven't been able to go yet.
Okay. I was like, is it the same one I was talking about? Because that's also on Saturday. First.
Yeah, I know. Everybody wants to do one on Saturday. Actually, my problem is I have to pick and choose which game days I want to go to because there's just so many that people want to do on Saturday. So as long as you're searching for the group, as long as you're searching for people to play board games with, you'll definitely find it. There's a pretty big market, and it's definitely growing.
At least in like Arizona, I don't know what's like in like other states,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Arizona's so spread out. Everybody's so far away from each other. And the fact that they still drive miles to come and play board games at like, somebody's house is crazy.
Well, I don't drive. I have to lift, and those lifts start to add up after a while.
Yeah, you lift?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been going to the gym.
Yeah,
too.
I lift, bro. Don't you see? Oh,
I saw that recently. Yeah, when I saw you, I was like, wow, he's getting buff.
I mean,
there we go. So yeah, I think. Sorry, we got a little sidetracked.
Like I said,
getting into board games was.
This is a conversation, so feel free to get sidetracked. So
right, for sure. Well, I'd like to finish answering the question.
Yeah, okay.
I think me getting into board games, it started like that, and then I met some people. Nate actually, who is actually the other co-founder of Corrosive Games, and
who
we were.
Yeah, co-partner.
Yeah, co-partner. Yeah. Co-pilot. He kind of invited me to a game night, and I started going and realizing like there are so many other games that are so much better than the mainstream games that are out there, like the games you find in Walmart. However, there are a lot more like cool games that are going out on Walmart or in like Walmart and Target and stuff. It's just there's so much more depth and so much more like combining of mechanics and smaller games,
especially when you get into those like miniature games.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a sucker for miniature games, even though I haven't played too many of them. But
like Warhammer or something?
I'm talking even beyond like Warhammer.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like a ton. I don't know if have you seen this ad? What is it called? It's made by a company called like Succubus Publishing.
I don't know.
So it's like this like the dungeon crawl like JRPG like
Oh, okay.
miniature game. I've been seeing ads for it a lot lately on my Facebook.
Me personally, I have not gotten into the miniature um like community that much, so I'm not really like that deep into miniature games because there's
I
definitely
mean,
different
I have a
parts of
bunch
the
of
board
them.
game.
I just haven't played.
I see.
I'm
Okay,
one of
you're
those
collecting
people. I have a lot of games. I haven't played most of them.
them.
I'm trying to do better at playing them. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
trying to go to these like game days and game nights more.
Yeah. That was one of the things about our game was we could do miniatures, but it would just take up so much space, and we didn't want it to be a game that was just pretty to look at. We wanted it to be a game that was really fun to play. And like, I think that miniature games can sometimes people will buy them just because they look like they like the miniatures and they want to use them for something else, and they totally don't play the game, or they just take all the miniatures out and they're like, well, I can use these for anything. I don't even need to look at the game. And so that was one of our things. Like, we want people to enjoy the game. Like, it is a game that we spent a lot of time developing, and we made sure that it is really balanced and it has way different gameplay than other people have done before. I mean, even though it's easy to pick up, if you play it a lot, you're going to win. Sorry about that other game we played where I demolished you.
I lost twice, man.
I know. It's because you played me.
You would think after the first time he would like take pity on me and let me win, man. You gotta make the player feel good. They'll be more likely to back your game, man.
I don't know. As we've been developing, the first time we played it with people, I went easy and I was like, oh, I gotta make sure to sit in the back and let them win. Oh no, you took my people. Wow, how could I have stopped that? Oh no. And then as it's been going, I'm just like, what? I don't care. I'm getting really good at the game finally, because it's taken me a little bit of time, because there's just so many there's different types of mechanics that you need to get used to. But like, I've finally gotten good at the game, and I'm like, I'm gonna be good at the game. I'm done letting people walk all over me. People still end up having fun, even though they're like, you totally demolished me. But it's just, I don't know. It becomes boring letting other people win.
Yeah. So, do you think as a designer, is it like better to let your playtesters win or lose? Like,
for when you're out playtesting it, I think that
we're now like promoting the game at convention and people are playtesting it and trying it out.
So I had mixed, I mean, not mixed views on that, but like, I had one person say to me, they were like, I'm glad that you won, because that means that since you've played it a lot, it shows that it's a skill-based game. Since you've played it a lot, it means that you are able to take advantage of the mechanics in the game and win the game. He said if he would have won, he would have been like, how is that possible? Is it randomness? Like, I would have assumed that I was going to lose because haven't played the game before, and this is one of the designers. And so,
okay,
that was kind of.
I can see that point, but I can also see, because you also want your game to appeal to the general audience too.
For sure, yeah.
People who don't play board games, so if they like lose because they probably don't understand how games work or how development works, that they might just get pissed off and leave and not like check out your game.
With people that don't play games a lot, we normally just let them play. We don't play with them. We're like, you guys figure it out. You guys are all first-time players. You figure it out. And then it kind of, although it ends up being more of a safe game because everybody's sitting in the corner and they're like, I don't want to attack him because I'm not really sure how this works yet. And I don't want to do this because I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. It kind of, it lets them learn the game. And so that's one of our things. If people aren't comfortable playing the game that much, generally I'll sit in the back. If I'm playing, I'll sit in the back and I'll just kind of show them, what you can do if you've played the game a lot, like how you can develop your, little town, like all of your different structures and all of your different units quickly and efficiently by using the game mechanics. And then they kind of are like, at the end of the game, even though I didn't completely take over their fortress and completely destroy them, and I was just sitting over in the corner, at the end, they'll be like, yeah, I really understood it. And I can see that if you play more, you get better at it because I can see what you did over there and how you have this giant colony. But so, I mean, that is definitely a way to play nicer. And there's definitely some factions in our game that benefit more from being left alone than they do from attacking.
So, what's your approach for like teaching people your game? Like, how much like information? Because your game's like semi complicated.
Yeah.
Depending how experienced someone's at board games, so you don't want to like overload them with information.
So generally, when we're explaining the game at conventions, mainly because that's the place where you'll be teaching new people that have no idea who you are, and they're like, I don't know, some crazy guy asked me if I wanted to play this game, and it looks cool, so I guess I'll sit down and play it. Generally, we start from, okay, here is the general idea of the game. You are going for victory points. It will go 10 rounds. Everything that is a diamond is a victory point. So if you have those, you have more victory points. And that's generally pretty easy for people to understand. From there, we go, what is each round going to be? What is it going to look like? And since all of our rounds, you're able to do the same things each round, it doesn't change round by round by round, although your strategy can change. Generally, we'll be like, okay, this is what happens in one round. We'll go through all of our different actions you can do. And then we'll be like, all of these extra pieces will come up later when things happen. So you don't have to worry about them right now. You just go ahead and take your first turn. And then everything on the card says exactly what you do. So we just kind of let them get used to the game a little bit before we start telling them a little bit more about these other things that happen later.
So when I'm like playing a game for the first time and the person's like teaching it to me, I'm like half paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time I'm just zoning out because I like learn better from like doing and like learning.
Right, for sure. Yeah, we generally I think the best thing to do is just keep your explaining down to a minimum. If you can show people on cards like, hey, this is what this does right here, and if you can actually show them kind of examples on what happens, it gets a little bit of the play across, and then just let them jump in. Let them start playing the game. It's not like a rule book where you read through the whole entire thing and then you're like, okay, I understand the game. I'm ready to play. It's more of, hey, let's figure out the game as you're playing it, because that's the most exciting for people, especially at conventions when you have people that are like, I got something else to run to, so I'm not really sure if I can stick around. They're more likely to stick around later if they're already playing the game and they understand it as they're playing it, than if you're like, okay, let me just explain for 30 minutes kind of how the game's played.
So I think it's a chance to ask you earlier, but what are some of your favorite tabletop games?
So the funny thing is, I'm making a strategy game, a war game, but I generally like the more dice and card based games. Like Valeria is like a game where you have different people you can recruit and they have numbers on them, and then you roll the dice and you get the effects of them if you roll the right dice. I like, let's see, I'm trying to think. I've recently started playing Blood Rage a lot, and I'm really enjoying that. I just ended the other day with like almost 200 points, and I'm like, what? That's crazy. Nobody else enjoyed that outcome, but I did.
Pretty fun game.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Have you had a chance to play it yet?
No.
Oh, okay. I definitely suggest it. It's a really good game, and it's not too difficult to get. It has really cool miniatures too. So if you're a miniature guy, I would definitely take a look at that.
I think I might Because how you're describing it, I've seen pictures of it before.
It's a Viking game.
Viking game.
Yeah, for sure. And then I really like Pandemic too. I was playing
that was
the
actually
Legacy.
the first like real board game I actually played.
Oh, really? It's I'd say it's more of a mainstream game now too, because I'm starting to see it at other bigger retailers. But it's fun because it's got that interaction, but at the same time, it's not too complicated. You're trying to wipe out a virus.
And I think it kind of gives a general scope of what like board games can be.
Oh yeah, for sure, exactly. I mean, generally when people think of board games, they don't think cooperative board games, and that's one of the bigger cooperative board games. And so it's kind of bringing that type of game into the spotlight a little bit more.
So do you prefer like cooperative games or games you compete against people?
I mean, I like both of them. I'm not going to say that I like cooperative games more though, because you know, at some point it's fun working with other people, but some of them tend to follow the same trends. Like when you're playing a cooperative game, you're like, oh, this is exactly like this other cooperative game, just because there's mechanics in them that make it work so that every player has a say, and that generally just gets put into the game like every cooperative game.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite cooperative games, besides like the Power Rangers board game, is
okay. I think you were talking about that. I've never played it though.
It's fun, but I guess it could be a bit too easy. Though I haven't played on the more like difficult mode, so one that's like super difficult but like fun is the XCOM board game.
Interesting. Okay, I've seen stuff about that, but I haven't played it yet either.
And what's interesting about it, and how my friend like Noah explains it. So co-op games has that issue where other people will be playing the game for the other players. You always have that like one person.
Yeah, that one person that knows more about the game. So they're like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that.
XCOM fixes that by, because of the different like tasks. You're too focused on your tasks to move on to have the double play. Because if I remember correctly, I think each like task has like a time limit and stuff. So
okay, interesting. You know, I did play this one game. It was this bomb game where you have like 10 minutes, I think, to disarm as many bombs as you could in order to pass or something. And the way it worked was everybody has an individual little card in front of them where they have to disarm that card, and it goes around in a circle. So you roll your dice, you put as much as you want on there, and then you pass it to the next person. They roll their dice, and you keep going around. So it's cooperative because you're all working against the clock, so people can help you by looking at it, but at the same time you have your own thing in front of you that you're trying to accomplish, and you can do it however you want. So I think that was pretty fun, actually. And it had a time limit to it, so it made it so that people weren't like sitting there like, oh, but if I make this decision, then this and this, and if I do this, then this and this. It was more of just like, do the thing. People were just figuring out what they wanted to do in the moment.
So do you like games that have time limits? How do you feel?
That game, yes. I can't say overall that I can't say that I love games that have time limits, because I don't play that many. There's not very many that actually have time limits.
So this kind of brings up an interesting topic. There's certain types or certain specific games that have like mechanics that like turn you off.
I think that a game that tries to be several different genres of games turns me off, because if you're playing it and it's like, oh, this is something that I struggled with at the beginning too, with some of the trash games that I ended up making, like they just didn't work out, is we were like, oh, let's do a strategy game, but it has a lot of luck involved. And it's like, how can it be a strategy game if it has a lot of luck? You know what I mean? Um, so it was just that didn't end up working out just because while some people enjoyed it, it wasn't a strategy game. It was just kind of like a fun, like test your luck game. Um, I think that's one of the things with like Risk. I've grown to not really enjoy
I've never
Risk
played Risk.
that much. You've never played Risk. I'm telling you, man, you've never played any of the classic American board games.
I've played Scrabble.
I mean, sure, that could count.
Hey,
I mean, it's a word association game.
If Monopoly counts.
You haven't played Monopoly completely.
Oh,
yeah, that's true. Okay, Scrabble will count. I mean, it's a good game. It's fun. But yeah, like in Risk,
I've played like the Nano's Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
Does that count?
Oh, it's not okay. Yeah, sure. It's a game, I guess. If going to the casino counts as gaming, then
you're
yes.
not going to a casino. You're going to fast food.
But you're basically playing the casino.
Pretty much.
Playing the luck. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the things that as I've gotten into more deeper content of board games is like games like Risk, you're kind of like it's gonna end up the same way every single time. Somebody's gonna have a giant army at the end and they're just gonna wipe everybody out, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's fun, but like I want to be able to like plan what I want to do, plan my outcome, instead of kind of being like, oh, he randomly got some cards, now he's got a giant army, now he's going to take over the whole entire board, I guess we lose. So I think that newer games, it's interesting too, because everybody seems to remember the classic games, but newer games have so like deep of like strategies and contents and different choices you can make that they kind of work. I mean, it's like anything. It's just been growing and growing and growing upon. It started with the base idea, which is good, but it's just been getting better and better and better.
And I think some people don't realize they still make new board games. You know, a lot of people associate true. Like board games with kids and think it's just a bunch of like kid games.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think if video games can be for everybody, I think board games can be for everybody.
Yeah, but I think it's a lot difficult to get people to play board games than video games, because you have to like sit down at a table, and like board games is more of an, I don't know if it's really more of an investment. It feels like more of an investment, but video games you're playing for longer.
I guess, you know what though, board games just have a longer lifespan of play because you're not playing them as often. Video games, you can play for a week, finish the whole entire thing, and you're done, right? But board gaming is more of a community event. It's more of getting people together, having fun together, and this game, you can keep playing it because you're not going to be able to play it for like 10,000 hours, you know, in a month. You're going to play it over the series of a couple of years. And so it just has more value in it. And also the pieces, you're getting actual pieces that are like physical things, not just a virtual thing. I mean, you pay $60 for a video game, you're getting a virtual world, sure, but there's an end to it. It has a story. It has multiplayer that's going to go offline at some point, right? You get a board game, you're getting actual physical pieces in your hand, something that actually has like value in its weight, and you're getting something that you can play forever. It's not like servers are going to go down for it. You can just keep playing it.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm making, if you ask like a general audience, let's say we have a video game and a board game, they're both like 4 hours, okay, and they've never played any of those. If you ask them which one they'd rather try, I feel like they'd rather try the video game versus the board game.
Yeah,
but I mean, why is that? They take the same amount of time.
Yeah, but video games are flashy. They happen instantly. It's boom, 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 and it's like, oh gosh, everything's just happening. And generally, video games have actually gotten while they've become more intuitive, they've gotten simpler too. You think back to video games like World of Warcraft, where the inventory management and you had to know things about the game in order to be, it wouldn't walk you through it. You had to figure out these things. It was a trek. It was a journey to figure out how to play this game. Right now, everything's like super user friendly. Everything's like, oh, you do this and you do this and you do this, and we'll walk you through it. We'll give you waypoints. We'll tell you exactly where you need to go instead of wandering around. So they've gotten simpler while getting more intuitive. It's just kind of a trade-off that's happened.
So to kind of go back to what we're talking about, like mechanics. A game that has a mechanic that turns me off is Magic Maze.
Magic Maze. So what is the mechanic?
Okay, you can't talk.
Oh, so you're talking about like party mechanics?
No. Games like that. So there's a game board. So you have to escape the like dungeon or whatever, and stuff. So you have to like work together, but you can't talk. And each person has an ability that can move someone in a certain direction and stuff. So you can't. At least the mode I play, you can like.
You can't talk to each other because you're.
There's different scenarios. I've only played a couple of the scenarios, so I don't know.
I can see that. Yeah.
With my anxiety, like
one of my things is party games where you have to do things. So like it'll be like, I don't. This might sound lame.
So like Truth or Dare.
People really enjoy them, but no, like I'm talking about like board games where it's like, oh, you got this card, now you need to talk in this accent, or oh, you've got this card, now you need to do this thing, and I'm just like, oh, I just want to play a board game. I don't want to have to do like weird activities in order to play the board game. So, I mean, it might make me sound lame, might make me sound like I'm just a party pooper, but I just don't enjoy those that much.
So when did you know you wanted to make games?
Well, so after I was going to this gaming group or gaming night for, a month or so, I was starting to see some of the mechanics and how they were being used, and kind of like, I could make my own game. That sounds easy, right? Not as easy as I thought it was.
Games are easy.
Games are easy.
You just click the make game button, and it just spits out a game.
Yeah. Well, I come from a creative family. We definitely like to invent, like we like to make things. My mom is writing a book, or
That's
she's written
cool.
a book and she's writing a new one. And my sister is a graphic design artist. So I was writing songs in high school, which is around the time when I started thinking of doing board games. And I was like, well, I like doing creative things. I could make a board game. That sounds like a lot of fun. So I started creating this idea on like, I was cutting out pieces of paper or printing them, super, super basic looking art and stuff. And I had some people play it and they were like, yeah, okay, it's cool. You made a game. Like they were more excited that I made a game rather than what the game was, because it wasn't that great. And then I was like, Nate, you got to see this game that I came up with. And this is when I was actually putting on like cardboard, which was my premium quality version of the game. I was like, I'm gluing pieces of paper to cardboard. Oh yeah, we're moving
premium
up the world.
Cardboard.
Premium cardboard. From like cartons.
You must have got imported overseas, man.
It was the finest French cardboard I could get. And so I played it with him, or I showed it to him, and he was like, we could make a game out of this, clean it up a little bit because it's a little rough, but we could actually make a game out of this. And that's when I was like, are we actually going to make a game? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we like really got into it. We were like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We started coming up with different mechanics. We started showing it to people at the game night. And finally we ended up like printing test copies that cost us like so much money, and we printed way too many that we didn't even need, and it ended up just being a waste of money. But we printed like prototype copies, and we got them in the mail, and then we'd be like, oh, we need to change this, so we need to print another one. And so I'd say don't print too early if you're a new board gamer, like board game developer. Print when you know that the game is done, and then you print your final like demo copies to show to people.
Don't want to waste that ink.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Yeah, the ink is precious. Save the ink.
Yeah, but I find it's always helpful to have like that creative partner that can help like bounce ideas and like push you and like encourage you.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was so much
imagine
better
if like Nate never like said anything, you probably would have not made the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have been working on stuff just because I enjoy making things. I just enjoy making things. I don't enjoy finishing things, but I enjoy making things. And so
I'm kind of the opposite. I enjoy seeing the finished project. I don't like all the steps required to get to the finished product.
I see. Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily like all the steps. I like creating things. So I already have so many other games that I want to make at this moment, but I need to contain myself. I'm working on this one game. I need to make sure this one game is perfect before it goes out. And so it's been a struggle. I want to make more games. I want to make new games. I don't want to finish it.
That's kind of my problem right now. I'm working on so many projects at the same time. They're all technically one project, but I'm like trying to do the Twitch, the YouTube, the podcast. I might be making a blog / website soon. So, which may actually come out tonight. So.
Oh, cool. Okay, nice.
Like it's gonna be a very basic, just so like when I go to cons, I can like interview like devs and post like an article on
somewhere. So yeah, for sure.
Nothing too flashy. Maybe in the next couple of months, but I don't have enough time to make it flashy at the moment. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's kind of. With the development, then we made that game, and then we were like, I think we're done. And then we were getting ready to post it. We were getting ready to do all of our Kickstarter stuff, and we took it to a game night, and we played with some people that were like more our crowd that we were looking for. They were like, I want a strategy game, and we were like, perfect, yes. So they played it, and they were like, I don't like it, and we were like, what? Because everybody before then was like, yeah, it's good. But they were just like, it sucks. And we're like, what? Tell us more? Because we just wanted to make it a really good game. And they started explaining a lot of stuff to us. And we were just like, oh man, you know what? Like, you're right. I mean, there's a time to listen to people's criticism and there's a time not to. And we really wanted to make it a game that people were like, when can I buy it? Like, when is this going up? I need to know. And it wasn't there. But we had tricked ourselves into thinking it was because it was our baby. It was, the thing we were like, it's so precious. It's our first game. So we didn't want anything to be wrong with it. But when people are like, it sucks, we were like, what? That's impossible. We've checked every angle. So after that, we scrapped most of the mechanics in the game and stripped it down. Yeah, we stripped it down to what we wanted it to be, a strategy game. We wanted it to be a strategy game where you had several different options. Before, all you had was only one option, attack. You had no other options. And we wanted to make it something where you could choose different outlets to go. You can quest, you can get money, you can go and attack people, you can just hold on to your territory and wait it out till the end of the game. And we kind of opened up all these different avenues that we didn't even think. We were like, we need to stick to what it is, a strategy game. Get rid of all the random elements. While they might be good, we were like, if we're going to remake our game, we want to make it a strategy game. So we want to get rid of random elements. And we were kind of looking at like RTS games, like, why don't we go ahead and incorporate different unit types that you can buy? And then we were like, what if we incorporated different structures that you can build that will upgrade your unit types? And give you income per round. And that's where we got a lot of our ideas with RTS games like Age of Empires and StarCraft and games like that. And we played the first version, the very, very, very rough, with some of our friends, and afterwards they were like, this is so much better. And we're like, what? This is the roughest version of the game. And they were like, this is great. You should keep going with this idea. So that's what we decided to do. That was kind of our turn. That was kind of the point with the decision we made to go with this new version of the game, was when everybody was like, this is better. It was like, okay, I guess we got to do this. So then we started just refining it and just trying to make it the best we could. And finally we got to a point where we were playing it and we were at the end of it saying, there's no changes we need to make. And we'd ask people, we were like, please tell us anything you hated about the game. You absolutely hated about the game. We want to know if you hate it. We want to know if you don't like this. We want to know if this is unbalanced. We want to know every problem you have with the game. And we were getting a lot of people that were just like, it's good. Like, it's done. It's great. Like, when are you going to put it up? Because it's finished. It seems like it's a finished game. I enjoy it. And there's no changes I would make. And so, I mean, other than the people that lost being like, they were broken. But, you're going to get that sometimes.
It's tricky getting feedback from, I guess, like, follower base or even like friends or family, because sometimes
they want to be nice.
Or it's not just that they may not be knowledgeable enough or know enough to maybe point out what's like wrong. So a lot of times you just get, this is good, this is good, this is good, until eventually that one random person pops in and says this is terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if they play, we had some people that would play it and they'd come into it and they'd be like, I don't like strategy war games, but I'll play it anyways. And we're like, you don't have to play it. Like, if you don't like this type of game, you're not going to like the game. Like, if you did, I'd be really surprised, because it's not your type of game. That's like people that are like in video games and they're like, well, I don't really like first person shooters. I hate them, but I'll give it a go. And then they play it and they're like, yeah, I don't think it's good. And you're like, well, duh, you don't like them.
Well, and
you're not the crowd.
Cases like that, sometimes the friends like force them to.
Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of people that didn't enjoy board games and they played my board game and then they'd be like, cool. And I'm just like, well, you don't like board games in the first place. So, of course, you're not going to be like, wow, this is amazing, because you don't really like board games. So I'm not really, those are the people that I generally am just like, okay, there's no real feedback there. It's just not for you. That's fine. And everything doesn't have to be for everyone. That's the reason why there's so many different options out there.
So, to talk about video games, why did you decide to make a board game and first instead of a video game? And do you ever plan to make a video game?
I have ideas for video games, but I'm not a programmer and I don't have the resources to do that. I don't have the connections yet to do that. I have so many board game connections right now that I never thought that I'd be able to get. And so it definitely seems more of a possibility to make a video game, but I think for board games, it's more manageable for me to do, because I can take a first hand at like doing the art. I can take a first hand at making everything. And actually, since it's a physical thing, I can have a hand in it. It's easier for newer people that like aren't necessarily like programmers or people that want to commit to that. It's easier for them to do, just because it's a physical thing. So, you have a video game, you're like, hey, download my video game. You have a board game, you're like, hey, I'll just bring over my board game and we'll play it. It's just so much more easy to reach out to people and kind of get that going. And especially at conventions, having a video game at a convention, sure, you can get people to download it, but having a board game at a convention, you actually are there with them while they're doing it.
Yeah, board games had that like physical people interaction, and I feel like I like online gaming. I think it's cool, but
Yeah.
with it, we've lost that like in person communication.
Yeah, and my whole entire goal was like I want to combine. I really like video games, and I started getting to board games. So I was like, why not just make a board game that feels like a video game? And so my next thing is, why not make a video game that feels like a board game? Not a board game per se, but like something like Civilization or something. That kind. I mean, there is a board game for that, and I haven't played it, but playing Civilization, you feel like you're playing a board game. I mean, if you like Civ, you'll like board games.
Do you plan to go to conventions outside of Arizona?
I really want to. The thing is just cost. Working a. I'm not in a career sense, like not in a career job yet, so I'm not making enough to be able to go outside of the state as much as I want to, or take time off of work to go and do that. So I generally have just tried to do as many things in Arizona as I can because it's more feasible. I did get contacted by PAX South to come to their convention with my board game and get a booth, but I looked at their pricing and I was just like, sorry, it's just not feasible right now. So next year, I really want to go.
They asked you to exhibit, but they still wanted your money.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, hey, your game looks great. Why don't you go ahead and exhibit here? And I was like, okay, sure.
Give us money.
Give us money, yeah. I mean, they're still a business. It's not like they're going to be like, hey, come and exhibit for free. So, I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot of conventions that I'm following right now that I really want to go to. Some that are like in Germany.
What's on your list?
I have CSW Expo, Gen Con, PAX.
Which PAX? PAX Unplugged.
I'll go to all of them if I want.
PAX Unplugged might.
PAX Unplugged. Yeah, I think you were telling me.
That's the tabletop one, but but the other PAXs has this unique advantage since the other PAXs are video game focus. There's a specific area for tabletop, and there's not as many tabletop advantage, so not as much like competition and stuff. You could stick out more. So
for sure. And we've actually had a lot of video gamers that don't play board games that much say like, oh, I really like this would be the game that would get them into board games, just because it has that Civ feel, it has that RTS feel, the over the top of the top view strategy type of game. And so they're like, oh, I've played video games like this, like it's not too hard to understand what you do, and it kind of opens up their possibilities, like, oh, board games are actually pretty close to video games. It's just you're not downloading anything. You have the components.
Yeah, I could some conventions that are on my list. So I'm gonna be going to GDC next month. So if anyone sees me at GDC, come say hi. But next year, I would like to go to DreamHacks. One of them, I would like to go. Not sure if you've heard of that one.
I have not. No.
It's more of a gaming one. But Level Up Expo is also on my list. I'm just trying to think. I would
Dice Tower.
Dice.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. I also want to go to some like out country events. Like I would love to go to like Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show.
For sure. Those ones are a little harder to get to, but if you have time set aside for that, then that would definitely be cool. Vacation and con at the same time, right? I mean, who could beat that?
Well, for me, going to conventions is more for business than.
I mean, yeah, that's one of the things After this game is done, I'll be excited to go to conventions just to look around and see what is there instead of, hey guys, check out my game. Come on, check out my game,
Because going forward, I plan to actually like do coverage at conventions. So
Oh, okay. Like video coverage?
yeah, like video, like interviews and stuff.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I think that I think there can definitely be more of those in the board game community. And I mean, you do indie games too, like
Yeah.
interviews for indie games too. So I think
what
that's
do you mean
cool.
too? That's like what I do.
That I know.
Yeah, like
We're doing. No, I have just made your stream a board game stream. Okay, you're committed to one thing now.
I can't even stream board games, man.
Well, you better figure it out. That's what the people want now.
Like I don't got the physical like space for it. That's the whole problem.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
could be
not
an
sure if I
issue.
mentioned it. I live with my parents, so
Yeah, you did tell me that.
and I trying to convince my mom to let me turn her dining room into like a tabletop streaming room.
I don't know how well that's going to go over.
Yeah, and then if I do in that room, there'll be a lot of background noise and stuff because it's like an open room and stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
And people in my house tend to make a lot of noise.
They're just stomping around.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Doorbell goes off. Dog barks.
Yes, that would definitely make a lot of noise. I used to have a dog that barked continuously for no reason. She'd bark at a fly buzzing around just because. And so I can definitely relate to that. I tried to do so many recordings because I used to do a lot more music recording. And so I'd always be recording, and then suddenly you just hear in the background just a bunch of barking, and you're like, I gotta start over.
So do you make a lot of music? Are you like a musician?
Yeah, I wanted to get into film scoring for a while.
Ooh,
I was actually looking at different schools to go to. I know, right? Or like video game scoring, like doing music for video games. And so I have a lot of samples that I put on a SoundCloud under my name. But I just never ended up meeting anybody that I could do that with. And kind of, I've stopped doing that as much because so much of my time is being taken up working on this one thing.
I made a like SoundCloud. I only used it briefly. I only put like one episode of the podcast. I stopped because like SoundCloud only gives you a limited amount of space, and I don't want to pay the like subscription
Premium
for more space because there's no guarantee that like I would get like exposure from SoundCloud. So if it's not like it gave me exposure, there's no point of like having it.
Yeah, for
paying
sure. That makes sense.
Monthly like fee. So
I used it mostly just for putting my music up and then being like, hey guys, look at my music.
Well, your music shorter. I do like a 2-hour podcast. That's
true.
That takes up most space.
That's true. On SoundCloud, I think I've normally seen like 3-4 minute podcasts.
That's not a podcast.
It is if you talk really quick. Hey there, what's going on? My name is,
Goodbye. See you next time.
I think I was seeing like 1 minute reviews or 2 minute reviews of things.
Okay,
they'd be
those are reviews, not podcasts.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little easier to do a review.
Yeah.
So actually, I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
What did you think? Since I'm on here for the board game, I'm going to keep going back to that just because. But what did you think about the board game? Like, honest opinion of it. The notes are coming out.
Yeah, I gotta remember.
Boy.
It's been a while. I got notes of your game. You were a couple weeks back, so
That's true. We did play it a little while ago.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's memorable. It's memorable enough to know.
Well, so I played it 2 times. The first
Yes.
time, I didn't like completely understand. There was like a lot of rules thrown at me, and I think I was like zoning out. Like I said, I do better learning
Just playing.
by doing. But the second time, I think since it was just 2 of us, I was able to go a lot uh slower.
Okay.
You know, I think some of the strategy I don't still completely understand. Like attacking, I still haven't quite mastered.
Oh, okay.
I understand the whole gathering posts and building up
Yeah.
your resources and stuff like that, but the whole how attacking and how many troops and what direction I can attack to, I haven't quite like mastered.
But that's normal. I mean, it is a game that you get better at over time.
So I got a question now. How many different like strategies have you?
How many different strategies?
Have you seen? Like, have you seen? Since a lot of different people have played it, have you seen a lot of different like routes people have taken? And how has that experience been? Seeing the different ways people have played, like, have you been surprised?
Oh yeah.
Have like people done things in your game that you didn't think was possible?
Yeah, I've definitely been surprised by some of the things that people do, either for better or for worse. But yeah, there's so many different strategies that I've seen. Like everyone who plays it differently, and so I mean, we've been in it. I've seen people like sit down and be like, "Oh, this is a defensive faction. Okay, I'm gonna play them aggressively," and I'm like, "Okay," and then they end up winning, and you're like, "It worked. Like they just did it right. They knew what they wanted to do. They came into it with a goal, and they accomplished that goal." You know, they'll be like, "Oh, this ability is meant for defense, but I think I could use it to my advantage for like holding territory offensively." And so it's just interesting to see the different strategies that people come up with just because there's so many different routes you can take. I mean, the factions themselves have upgrades that you can get and they're set. These are the different upgrades you can get, but it doesn't mean you have to use them how we intended them to be used. I mean, they can be used any way. You don't have to get one of them first or one of them second. You can get them in any order. And it's just kind of just depends on what you want to do as the player. And so it's been really interesting to see different strategies. I can say, let me see if I can pick something out completely, like something that I had seen that was a little weird. I'm trying to think. I've seen, I think the weirdest one was when the white faction, the Order, they it was a two-player game, so it worked a little bit better in their favor, but I was playing against this guy and he completely demolished me. And that is interesting in itself because he just had a game plan going in and I was like, I'm going to win. I know what I'm doing. But he just knew what he wanted to do and he grasped onto the concept really quickly. And so he was playing the Order and they're generally sit in the corner, gain wealth. You have a lot of defense. So if people come up to your borders, you can pay for your defense. And you basically just pay your way through the game. You pay to do things. You pay, just because you're making so much money. What he decided to do was he was like, I'm going to create a front line. And since I have defenses, I'll just build all my nice stuff in the back. I'll build a few buildings in the back because I don't want to spend time building too much. And I want to focus on pushing my opponent back. So he built some shrines in the back, got extra income from them. And then he got his defense and convert ability. His defense he could just pay for. So there was no reason for me to attack him because he had so much money. And then his convert, he just kept stealing my units from me. So, he'd steal my units a couple times. And then he'd be like, all right, time to move on to the next territory. So he'd take one territory, and then he'd take one territory and one territory. And at some point, I was just in the corner of the board, and I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know, like, what happened. I mean, there were things that I could have done to stop it, but I just had never seen that strategy before. So I was like, why would he do that? And he just ended up completely wiping me out.
So how did you do like game balance all the different strategies and make sure like
Yeah.
all the different possibilities can like function and
Mhm.
stuff doesn't break?
Right. There's just so much playtesting. I mean, this is a game that went through just hundreds and hundreds of hours of playtesting. We would give it to people and we'd be like, "Here you go. Go ahead and play with your friends and let us know if anything goes wrong." And then they'd come back to us and they'd be like, "Oh, by the way, when somebody was reading this, they didn't understand this, or when somebody did this, we were like, how can you is that possible?" So we just clarify that and kind of balance things based on that. If they were like, "Oh, he bought this and it just changed the game completely." Then we're like, "No, no, no, no. That's not what we want. We want you to buy something and for it to influence the game, but not change the outcome of the game." And so it was just a lot of playtesting, a lot of little tweaks. Like you have no idea. Like it's so balanced now that you change the income on something and it's like, is that gonna is that too much? Like we changed it by one. Is that okay? Like it's just so finely tuned right now that it just works in every single aspect that you do. And I mean, some people afterwards would be, early on in the phases, they'd be like, this is overpowered. And we'd be like, yes, that is overpowered. Now it's like, I mean, it's not overpowered, but I think that it does too much. And we're like, well, if it's not overpowered, then, he's just using it really well. The person's just using it really well.
Oh, I
So it
do
was just a lot of playtesting.
remember. I think I want to talk about the
Mhm.
pieces of your game. What was the process of like 3D printing that,
Yes.
publishing? Because you've gone through different versions. Because I don't know the
Mhm.
most recent version I saw of the pieces uh looks a bit different than the version I saw at like Game on Expo.
Okay, yeah. Um, well, Nate has been really cool about that. He got a 3D printer actually when we started doing pieces, like custom pieces, and it was like perfect timing. So he started design. He actually has been heading up the design on the different meeples that we're having, the different fortresses, the different structures, just everything. He's designed all the pieces in a 3D render, and then we just printed them on his 3D printer, which made it really easy rather than going out and finding somebody to cut wood and paint wood for us, which would have been a different expense that we didn't have the option to use. So doing 3D printing was made it a lot easier.
Cool.
Hmm.
So to kind of talk about game marketing, because I think
Hmm.
that's important. How important do you think like game marketing is for your game, for any like game?
It's so important. Not marketing, not like ads, what you might think marketing, but like community building. You need to build a community around your game. You need to get that FaceTime with people. And it just seems it's hard. It's hard to get out there and like force yourself to actually meet people and tell them about your game and get them to join a list to just get updates because especially if you're just starting off,
Yeah,
nobody
and
knows who you
and
are.
especially if you don't live in an area that has a lot of like accessibility
Yeah,
to
for
stuff.
sure. So there's a lot of online communities you can join. I think Reddit, there's a board game design community, and I've been a part of that. And I mean, I wish I would have gotten onto that sooner. There's so much good feedback you can get. If you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of, definitely check that out. It's like slash uh, tabletop design or something, and it's really good. And also just reaching out to like reviewers or podcasts or videos like that. It also builds community. It's not necessarily, even though you might be paying for it, if you're doing it builds the community a little bit more because they're actually seeing the game played and seeing like if this is something they want to do and if they want to support you. I'd say do that really soon. Like build your community. You want to have a really good email list to go off of.
So to talk about, I guess like content creators, how did you decide which? Because you only have like a limited number of like prototypes and like review copies you can send. How did you decide which content creators to send to?
Whoever got back to us. So for board games, when you say to somebody, "Hey, I have a new war strategy game," they're like, "I only play Euro games," and you're like, "Okay, sorry to bother you," and they're like, "I'm not interested." But if you're, and that's if you're a smaller, like designer, they're like, "I don't want to take a risk on this," because they don't like that type of game. But there were some people that got back to us. Um, we're actually going with Game Boy Geek for our preview video, and that was one of our bigger expenses. And he was really awesome about that. He actually was working with us a year ago, and when we thought we were going to send him another game, and we were like, "Oh, sorry, we just realized we need to rework it," out of the blue. And so we were like, "How? Like, we don't know when, but can we tell you, when we figure out?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure thing. Like, I'd like to do it for you guys. So just let me know so I can fit it into my schedule." And so he was really good about that. Unfortunately, just some of the other people, they have so many requests coming in that they just kind of are like, either you do it now, either you get back to me sooner, either, they're not willing to work with you to figure out when the best time would be. That's more of, you have this option. So he was really good about that. He really worked with us about that. And he's actually local. He lives in Arizona. So
Yeah, I might have to check him out. What did you say his name was? Game Boy Geek?
Game Boy Geek, yeah. And the preview for the game will be going up on our launch day.
So who's covering your game that you can talk about?
We've mostly just done local people. We don't have. This is something that I regret now. I wish we would have had more people outside of just the local community reviewing the game and taking a look at it.
Yeah, I don't.
It may have been easier if we went to conventions out of state.
I don't know any like board game content creators like personally. I know of some, but I don't.
Yeah.
So like the ones I really like, and it'd be cool if they cover your game, is like shut up or set up and down.
Shut up and sit down.
Yeah, them.
We tried to get to them. They didn't really, our type of game, they didn't really seem interested in. So that was one of the things. If you're going to be a first time developer, make a fun party game that nobody really has to think about, and that has Euro game aspects, because people will jump all over that. They'll be like, I want to play that.
I don't think it's these content creators like fault that they get like a lot of requests, so they do have to pick and choose, and also a lot of them are doing this for a living, and it can be tough monetizing in YouTube, and stuff. YouTube's always changing. It's algorithm. It's hard to like keep up, man.
Yeah, for sure. So we got some people that were, kind of kind of cold, like hot and cold, and we wanted to do Dice Tower, but unfortunately they never got back to us after a certain amount of time. We
did
talked
you
to
like
them.
I don't know how like ethical or how, but did you, because isn't like the Dice the Dice Tower convention going on right now? Did you like consider asking some friends to like pitch to content creators for you while you were there?
No, I'm not going to that, but it might be a good idea to ask people to bring it with them.
That's why I was saying, like people that you knew that were like going. I know like conventions have like policy, but they could like have it with them, and then like meet up with the content creator somewhere or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that would be really cool. I'd be down for that. it might be a little bit too late because our Kickstarter is already going to be going up soon. But for future ones, I'm definitely going to try to go and meet them in person and actually like pitch my game to them in person and build a connection.
Because I feel like you might have a better chance if you're in there in like person, because there's more of a pressure in person.
For sure, I agree. So, well, it's all a learning process all the time.
Yeah, I think like with like board games in particular, it's a lot harder to get content creators to cover it because it's physical. Like with video games, those sites like Indie Boost and Keymailer, where like content creators can request game keys from developers, but I don't know how possible it'd be for the developer to be a board game equivalent unless that website's willing to pay for the cost of the review copies, so that designers don't have to worry about paying that cost, you know?
I think that the way to do that would be in person, when you just bring a camera with you and you're ready to play a game and review it at a convention. I think that'd be the way to do it. It would be a little different, and I haven't actually seen that before, but I think that would be an interesting kind of way to handle, just getting quick reviews out there like that, and just reviewing many different games at a convention after you've just played them. I think that'd be an interesting option, but it is a little tougher for board games because you actually have to mail it to them, and then they have to read the rules. And video games, it walks you through it right at the beginning. It's like, okay, here's the tutorial mission, and this is kind of what you're going to be doing. And it's a little easier to film than it is to set up a whole entire board game and film all the components and talk about it, because instead of just watching the game, you have to be engaging.
But people who cover board games already have a setup, so
for sure.
Obviously you're gonna go for people who've already covered board games,
right?
Another type of people you could reach out, bloggers and people who have websites, people who write about board games instead of making videos.
Yeah, that is true. That's another thing. I wish I would have reached out to those people more too, because there are a lot that I did not know about until recently.
You say it's too late, but really it's not too late. It's not gonna hurt, because it's not like your Kickstarter is only one day. It's going. How long is the campaign period?
35 days.
So if you reach out and they're able to cover within that 35 days, that could help. That could. Yeah. It doesn't like hurt.
Yeah, definitely. The first couple of days of a Kickstarter really make or break it. That's what I've heard. So I'm trying to line up everything at the beginning of the Kickstarter so that I can not worry too much about it at the end.
So from what I've seen in Kickstarters, a lot of backing happens at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah,
it's that right. Like middle part. So if you could find a way to make that middle section stronger.
Maybe, yeah. I'll definitely. I'm always looking around for different options. I'm always trying to reach out to people to cover the game.
I wish I knew some tabletop people. I don't have as when it comes to like content creation, I don't have any like tabletop content create. The only connection I have is Blanket Tournament, and they've already covered your game, so
they have. Yeah, we were on their stream one day. Yeah, so that was fun.
Well, not you, but
I wasn't.
Nate.
Yeah, the other Nate was. I couldn't make it. I was at somebody's wedding, so
wedding.
Come on, right? I know, right? Could have got married any other day.
So, Are you using Facebook ads? Do you think they help?
Actually, I was doing that right when you started calling me. I was starting to set up some Facebook ads. So. No, it's fine. I'm just doing it.
Wait, you doing your Facebook ads this late?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing about board games is you don't want to build you want to build a community beforehand, but you don't want to build your ad hype until later, like right before your Kickstarter. Because if people are clicking on the ad and they're like, "Ugh, it's not up for another 2 weeks," they might forget about your game. So you
Well,
want to
that's why you send them to the newsletter. Because
right.
I have talked to one designer about this, so I haven't talked to a whole lot, but I talked to the one of the people involved in making Moonrakers, and
Mhm.
they did say that the ads did help a lot.
Yeah, for sure. They did.
And I remember like seeing the ads like months and months before the
Yeah.
Kickstarter launch, and like
They
having it like direct to the newsletter and have people
yeah.
sign up and making sure like the newsletter gets sent during the Kickstarter launch. I think like really helps. That's just my opinion. Like I'm no developer or designer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I've seen some different approaches to it, either doing it really far in advance or just boom, bombarding right away, right before the Kickstarter. We decided to go with the latter because we uh, there's just been a lot of stuff. We would have done ads sooner, but there was a lot of stuff that came up that just prohibited us from doing it. But so we're going with the second route. We're going with the bombarding all of the ads at once and getting a bunch of people in a short amount of like spending more to get uh, just a large quantity at one time and keep that hype going. So we've been doing a lot of I've been doing, since I run most of our ads and most of our social media, I've just been putting the word out there everywhere as much as I can, putting it as often as I can, since it's so close, and then just hopefully um, it'll be, you know, you'll just see it everywhere.
So you mentioned before you have a partner, Nate. How did you guys meet? How has that like relationship evolved?
Uh-huh. So we actually met at our local church, um, and we both went there. So I mean, we just connected that way. That was when found out he had a board gaming group, and that was when I ended up going to his board gaming group. It was pretty soon, like it was pretty quick, because he was just like, "Hey, I have a game group." Math. My brother actually was going to it before me, and so I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll come check it out." So that's pretty much how we met. It was pretty quick.
And how does your working dynamic functions? Because it can be kind of difficult and risky working with friends.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the good things is we know what we want to do. We talk about our goals very often. We're actually right. We've written up contract, since we're both going into a business together. We know what we want to do at certain times. You know, if certain thing in the event of unfortunate circumstances happening, we know what's going to happen. So we just went through and planned all of that out. Definitely, I think the risky thing would be if you go into a business with somebody else and you're like, we're just gonna have fun. Don't worry about it. You
Yeah,
know,
because
you're cool. I'm cool. Let's just do it.
no, don't do.
Don't do that.
Because I may be going into a business with a friend and I'm like
Mhm.
nervous about it, and I don't
I
know. Maybe I should talk to a lawyer, but that costs money, so you know.
you should definitely figure out what are ahead of time, and gonna how you're gonna split income, how you're gonna split what is it work duties. Kind of just have everything set up ahead of time.
Yeah,
You want to make sure that you want to make sure everybody knows what's expected of them.
Yeah. And I'm trying to. I don't want. I'm trying to be careful how I word this because she does watch the streams. So.
Oh.
But she wants to like start it sooner than later. But I want us to take our time.
You should.
She would like to have it ready by GDC, but I know that's not going to be an option.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you should take your time, but at the same time, don't take too much time, because I think that being in a partnership together, you can jump into that, but being business partners is a different thing. Content creator partnership, people do that all the time. Featuring whatever. It's a partnership. They know they're going to get views, and they know the other person's going to get views, and they're going to exchange followers, right? I think for business partnership, that's more of, we have this one thing that we are going in together on, and this one thing is both of ours. And so I definitely think you should take the time on that. But if you don't do it, it's not going to become something. It's not going to become reality.
Yeah, the longer you wait, the more excuses you make, and the higher chance you have of it not happening. I mean, I could talk to you about it in more details, like off stream. I don't want to like give stuff away.
Sure.
But what's the? So what's and we're getting close to like wrapping up. So if anyone has questions for Zack, make sure to ask them in the chat. But what's something you want people to take away from your game?
That I want them to take away from the game?
Yeah.
Is that let me see. I'm trying to think what I want them to take away from the game. I want them to enjoy themselves, first of all. I want them to have fun doing it. I think that I'd like it if... That's a tough question.
I cut you off guard.
You did. I mean...
is it like a certain mechanic?
What do I want them to take away from it?
Experience?
Like mechanic-wise or like experience-wise?
Both.
Okay.
You know, pick what.
Mechanic-wise, I'd like them to take away the fact that you can still make new mechanics. You can still make things that are unique. You can... Because there's a lot of games that just are copy-paste with a different theme. And so I think that I would like people to be like, wow, this is an interesting mechanic that's implemented in a different way, and it's different from other games. And so it's still possible to make new mechanics in game, make different types of games from other games, while also keeping things that make it easy to play it, that come from other games. And then also experience-wise, I'd like people just to have fun. I mean, it's all about... Board games are all about community. Board games are all about meeting up with somebody else and kind of spending that time together and flipping tables. Exactly. Getting so upset that you flipped the table, but just having that experience of playing a game together, just that community of meeting up together. And so I think that I just would like people to enjoy themselves, but also after they play to be able to be like, there is other things that I can do with this game. Like, there are other things that I can do in this game, or I could play it better, or I could play it this way, or I could do it this way. It's honestly, the reason why we left it so open-ended on strategy-wise is because we want people to just be able to make it their own game. I would love it if after the game launches, if it gets successfully funded, hopefully it gets successfully funded, if people come to me and they're like, hey, this is this new strategy that I'm trying, and you got any, suggestions on it? And I'm just like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? How does that make sense? And so I would love that. I would love it if people came up with their own ideas of how to play different things, and their own ideas of, how they can make the game work for them. I think that'd be really cool.
So one question I forgot to kind of touch on. How
Oh yeah.
did you calculate the funding and Kickstarter costs?
There's a lot that goes into it.
You mean you don't just
you basically just start from the beginning. So how much is it going to cost for getting it from the manufacturer? How much is it going to cost for the manufacturer to set up plastic molds? Because those have setup costs. How much is it going to cost for it to get to you? How much is it going to cost for it to get to from the freighting company to your fulfillment company that's going to send it out to backers? How much is it going to cost for backers to get the copy? And then how much do you want to sell it for afterwards? Because if you sell it for less after the Kickstarter, people are going to be really upset about that because they backed your project and now you're like charging other people less even though they didn't back it. So you price it lower during the Kickstarter and you price it higher for MSRP. So we really we're not going to be making that much. I think all we did was calculate all of that, and off the top, we're barely going to be making anything per game because we want to keep that price down for backers, and we want to just get the game out there. For me, it's more of just people being able to play it. It's really cool getting an idea out there that you've made and having people just have it. I think that's cool. And so we calculated all of that. We calculated how much Kickstarter takes, how much the Stripe is the thing that Kickstarter goes through, and they're the people that charge the cards, and they take a percentage off the top too. Took that all into account, and we did the numbers, and we were like, okay, how much do we need to price the game for with all of this stuff taken into account? And we ended up pricing the game at a reasonable amount. Since we're not going to be really making anything off the top, I think we're coming out pretty even. We priced it at $60 for. Wait, this isn't official. This is official, but I haven't told anybody about this yet. So you're getting insider information.
Information. I hope you guys.
Everybody's getting insider information right now. We're pricing the regular game for $60, and we're pricing the premium edition at $70. And the premium edition will have extra content in it, like new cards, new buildings, and screen printing on all 113 meeples in the game. And so, nice. Yes, so it's $10 more, but you get a lot more. You're not going to get anywhere else after the Kickstarter. And so we $60 for the base game, $70 for the premium. And if you come sooner, if you are one of the first 100 to back the game, you'll actually get it at a $5 discount for the premium edition. So it'll be $65. So it's competitive pricing comparatively to other war games that have a lot of pieces in them. And this does have, I mean, you've played it. It has a lot of pieces in it. So,
I mean, you don't have giant miniatures, but you know,
we do not have giant miniatures. No,
it's okay.
And one of the things is there were two things that went into that price, and then also I was reading this thing that was like, there's so many plastic miniatures that are being made in games that it's like nobody's doing wood anymore, and wood is just so much better for the environment. And I know you can be like, whatever.
Who cares about?
But it is better for the environment, and on top of that, it's lighter. So, yeah.
I still want my fancy miniature games.
I know.
I'll play.
They are really cool.
I'll play.
They are really cool. Yeah, that was one of our things. Was the meeples. Actually making meeples is actually better for our game because we can do different shapes with them, and doing different figurines
I do think
look the same.
The way your pieces are, that does work for your game, you know.
Because you can tell the difference between them, which is a really big thing in the game.
So for our final question.
Oh, the final question. I'm ready. Bring it on.
What aspiring advice do you have for game designers?
Go for it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Get into it. Yeah, just do it. Do it. Make your dreams come true. Right. I think that one of the major things is people who have an idea, have a game idea that they want to do, and they just don't pursue it as much as they can. Now, you need to know when you get into it, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of logistics that go into it. If you're designing a game and then you're selling it to a publisher, might be a little bit easier because you get to do the fun designing work. But if you're designing and publishing, there's so much work that goes into it, so much time.
My problem is scaling. Like my ideas to be ambitious and knowing like when or how to scale down. Like
that is another thing.
Every time I think I come up with a simple idea, the idea evolves in my head more, and yeah.
I would also say if you're a new publisher, so many people told us ahead of time. So if you want to do it, like so many people told us, don't make a war game, don't make a strategy game for your first game. It's good advice. We ended up doing it anyways. So if you're a designer who's doing that, just go for it. You know, whatever. If you have the means to do it, if you have the drive to do it, you can do it. But I'd say do a small game that is quick to play and engaging and different. Because if your game takes 2 hours to play, new people who have never heard of you are going to be like, I don't have 2 hours to commit. If your game takes 30 minutes to play, people will be like, 30 minutes? Yeah, I'll just sit down and do that while I'm eating lunch or something. So
yeah, if you can like build a loyal fan base from your first game, it'll help with your second game, and you probably not always, but you may be guaranteed your second game will get like funded if you already have that following from your first game.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that, and it's just I have always been the type of person that when somebody tells me not to do something, I really want to do it. So when they were like, "Don't do a war game," I was like, I'm doing a war game. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing that.
Have they not seen Dexter's Lab?
I've seen Dexter's Lab.
Yeah. You tell someone not to press the giant red button.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna press the red giant button. That's what the red giant button's there for, to be pressed.
So I guess my advice should be make a giant war game, because then people won't want to do it, and then they'll make a smaller game. But yeah, I mean, anything else you wanted to ask me, or?
Thank you for joining us here. Where can people find you and all that stuff?
Yeah, so people can contact us. They can sign up for our email list at www.korrosivegames.com. And corrosive is spelled with a K instead of a C. You can look up Fate of Venterra. It's FATEOFVENTERRA.
Yeah, one of my posts I actually misspelled your name. I forgot the T.
Yeah, autocorrect always wants to change it.
Because I didn't realize that the sword was a T.
Oh, really?
Yes, I thought it was just a sword.
Oh, yeah, we were trying to be artistic and added a part of the title.
Well, because of your artistic, I misspelled your name in my tweet like weeks ago, so thank you for that.
Darn being artistic, I know.
And I felt embarrassed. I hope Zack doesn't get mad I misspelled his name.
I don't care. It's all right. I mean, people can just, if you look up Fate of Venterra on in a Google search, we're the first people that pop up. Our game on Board Game Geek is the first one that comes up. So
well, I mean, check it out. Who's gonna be searching for Venterra?
Venterra is a if you look up Venterra, you're gonna real estate company in another country, I think.
Wait,
Canada?
Is like Venterra like a popular word or something?
It is, because it means to come to the land or conquer the land or build on the land, I think. Those are all like different kind of what it could mean. It's just a combination of Greek Latin words. It's a combination of Latin words. So But our game means Fate of Venterra basically means the fate of the land you're going to conquer. So you are deciding the fate of the land you're going to conquer. And we just could not pass up on the opportunity to make our game translation that exactly. Because that just sounds, I mean, that literally sums up the game. You are deciding the fate of the land that you will conquer. That is the game.
Yeah, and in my case, my total death.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
My total death. One day I'll beat you. One day I'm coming back.
I'm looking forward to that. Hey, if you get the game, you should get some practicing partners and meet up, and we'll meet up on the basketball court and settle it.
Yeah, I'll play with Tyson or something. So
Yeah.
thank you again for joining.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope that you got a lot of useful information, and the other people got enjoyed watching.
Yeah. And this has been Nano's Indie Cafe, where we promote and interview different indies and try and give indies more exposure. We do this Wednesday for Friday at 2 p.m. Arizona time at twitch.tv/nanohero. Feel free to pop by and talk about your own game, promote it and stuff. We want to help like indies do better and get more promotion. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.